Welcome to The Point of View. This is your favorite current affairs show on television here on City TV. The Point of View picks the right topics, we get the right guests, we ask them relevant questions on issues that matter to you. We're back on the big discussion about urban resilience. We'll focus on flooding and sanitation for this round of the show because Accra, which is the capital of the country, has been identified as having at least 5 priority shocks, of which flooding is the first. There's also fire, disease outbreak, infrastructure and building collapse, and earthquakes. It rained an hour and a half in the southern part of Ghana on Monday, and there were flash floods over. Tonight we'll talk to the coordinator of a very important project, the GARID project, on what they've been doing to make our urban spaces, using Accra as an example, to be resilient. We'll also speak to Ghana's largest waste management company, Zoomlion, on the role they have to play in ensuring that we are resilient when it comes to flooding. Later on, we'll be joined by the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority. They have to deal with some long-term issues to prevent this flooding from taking all of us down. All of this and more when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. So tonight we're zeroing in on our flood preparedness as part of a broader conversation around urban resilience. Typically, urban areas bear the brunt of heavy rains because they are built up. The ability of the earth to soak up water is affected. People encroach into waterways, and that affects the resilience of these spaces to flooding. There's also a sanitation challenge where people dispose of refuse in the wrong spaces, and all of that leads to a very, very, very problematic urban settlement. In the studio, I have Dr. Ohene Sarfoh. He's the coordinator of the GARID project, the Greater Accra Resilience and Integrated Development Project. Doc, great to have you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I also have in studio Ernest Morgan Acquah, who is the PR manager for Zoomlion, Ghana's largest waste management company. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wonderful. Later on, we'll be joined by Kofi Amedzro. So it's as if the elements have reminded us that we need to get ready. Sure. Last week, I was at an event, World Bank School of Public Health, where they were looking at climate change and the potential shocks on health. Mm-hmm. Then on Monday, it rained for a few hours, and then we saw all the things we see every time. First question is, what is the GARID project? And what is it trying to do to stop what has become an annual ritual?
Sure. The GARID project, GARID is an acronym for the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project. It was initiated following the June 3rd, 2015 floods. And on a personal level, if you recall, on that night, I was actually talking to you, yes, telling you, giving you some advice on what to do. And incidentally, the whole city, including my own house, was flooding.
My house at Nana Krom was also flooded.
Yes. So following on that, the government approached the World Bank for some support in a series of activities, including the damage assessment, including a study of the state of resilience of the metropolitan area, and then subsequently the preparation of a strategy to address it before we got to the point where we had to now formulate the project, prepare the project. And the project is set up to address principally flooding in the Odo Basin. Now, the Odo Basin is one of 9 river basins that serve the city, or they serve the regional, the Greater Accra region. Except that Odo Basin traverses the central spine of the city, where the most commercial, high-value buildings and artifacts are, as well as where populations are also most dense. And so quite clearly it had to be prioritized above other basins. So in a conversation with the World Bank and other donors, the government was able to secure some funds to help us to aim for what they call a 1 in 10 flood protection. Now, if you were to take the what happened in 2015, where we had 131 millimeters of rain over 6 hours, that would be a 1 in 10 year flood incident.
Okay.
So the question was, if similar type of rain came down again, would the city be able to withstand it? Because the whole idea about resilience is being able to bounce back as quickly as possible. And so based on the studies and all of what we did, it became clear that quite a number of interventions were critical to be able to develop that. And then subsequently use that as a springboard to enhance the flood protection or the resilience capacity of the city. So presently what GARED is doing is looking at the state of flooding within the Odo Basin exclusively. Then looking at all the causes of the floods and see how that we can address that. So it's principally drainage-led intervention, but understanding also that there's solid waste contributes to flooding because of people's habits of pouring waste into our gutters. It doesn't matter which type of waste gutter you pour the waste into, they'll end up in the larger storm drains because of the connectivities between the different types of drains. So we have to address one aspect also, which is the solid waste as well. Then we are also, based on the studies and the simulations that we did, it became clear that there were a number of communities that would still suffer flooding in spite of whatever interventions you did on the major drainage networks. And so those ones were also then isolated, and further studies proved that they lacked basic infrastructure. And there were 4 of them that, based on the envelope that was available, the budget that was available for their assignment, 4 of them were prioritized. These are more or less the brick and mortar projects, but we also have soft measures that
So let me take it one by one. The Odo Basin is number 1.
Yes.
Solid waste management number 2.
Yes.
And then basic infrastructure
for selected,
selected communities, which whatever happens will get flooded.
Yeah.
Superb. Can you show me the Odo Basin? You said there are 9 river basins. I wish we had this to get people a sense of.
Sure.
It appears Odo is the most important when it comes to flooding in Accra.
Yes, if you show the map.
Yes. And where does Odo start from? Just walk us through some of that.
So Odo starts from the foothills of the Brim Mountains.
Serious?
Yes, that's where it starts.
So that's Eastern region?
Yes.
Wow.
And then it runs through Abokobi, Pantai, comes through Atomic Energy area. Then it flows all the way down from Transitions, all the way down up to a part connects to the Dome, a little bit of Dome, and then Pillar 2.
Okay.
Dome Pillar 2. Then it meanders its way past Alogboshi. Now Alogboshi is very close to Guinness, yes. And then it goes straight past what do you call them, Abofun, comes through Alajo, and then it comes through Circle, Odona, enters the past Graphic Road, and enters the Korle. So the Odo actually empties into the Korle Lagoon, and then the Korle Lagoon empties into the sea.
How many assemblies has it gone through since it started this movement?
If you take the Odo, when we are talking basin, so it includes the tributaries, so the river and its tributaries, then it runs through 17 assemblies.
17 assemblies?
17 assemblies. And if you are familiar with Accra, this used to be, until decentralization led to smaller fragments of the city, this used to be the core Accra city.
Yes.
So you are starting from what is, and then some parts of what used to be Gan Rural.
Yes.
So you are starting from the foothills of a breed that would take you from Gan East. Then you have
Abokobi.
So Gan East Assembly, you have Gan West Assembly, you have you have Gan North.
Gan North, Medina. Coming through
Lankwantanai. A little bit of it also is Adenta. The tip of one of the tips actually meanders through Adenta, connects through Labadi. There are so many.
And Gan North is now of Fanko, by the way.
Yes.
So then you're coming all the way down
into the Ayawaso. So Ayawaso Central, Ayawaso East, Ayawaso West, Ayawaso North. And
so
then
you are talking Jowulu, you are talking Mamobi, you are talking Nima.
You are talking Adabraka, which is now
Odona.
Korle Klote.
Odona.
Odona.
Then you enter
the AMA, and then the Korle side, a bit of it is Ablikuma Central.
Wow.
Yes. So,
so what are you doing under the Odo component? What are you doing with Odo?
We're doing multiple things. So first is to understand what is the cause, and then you know what you are intervening in. One is that because we don't do frequent dredging, the sediments build up, and then they constrict the volume that is available for to convey the flow.
Wonderful.
So the dredging is one of the activities. And then also we identified a very critical part of it. Now, whatever the rain that comes down, the runoff sometimes exceeds the capacity. So you need to then decide that let's detain a bit of the runoff during the rain so that what the existing capacity can take would be able to convey and then limit the risk of flooding. So that is leading us to the construction of detention ponds upstream. Then there are also a number of constrictions that have to be resolved. Some of it has to do with the configuration. So, for example, one of the key tributaries of the Odo actually runs from airports and then comes through CSIR, Opebia, CSIR, then connects at Kaukudi Junction, meanders through Nima. That's what then crosses the ring road at Paloma Hotel and enters Koliklote through Asalam Down.
So this thing they did near Decathlon, which is near Kaukudi, that drain is what carries that water to Ring Road.
Yes, it carries through Ring Road, through
Asalam Down. Okay.
Exactly.
I see.
So, you know, we have always known that Asalam Down floods.
Yes.
And it's because that's the source of the flooding. And actually the cause is at the end, the outfall, where after going through Asalam Down, it comes to where the previous Christian Methodist, Kojo Thompson Road, it goes underneath. So then it becomes an underground drain. It enters the Odo main channel at the pedestrian mall. Unfortunately, it enters at 90 degrees. So when the water levels in the main basin are rising, it blocks this from entry.
Which is why circle floods a lot.
Exactly. It's one of the factors that contribute to it. So that is one of the things that we have to reconfigure the outfall. Number two, the engineers determined that even the size of the drain is too small for the kinds of for the volume of rain that is coming and the runoff that has to be taken care of. So it's about also expanding the drainage. So from Circle, Nima Paloma Hotel, all the way to Circle, we are doubling the volume to take more of the runoff so that the waters can recede quickly. That's the other thing. Another typical tributary is the Kanishi. I mean, when it rained on Monday, there were videos all over the place of. It's because the existing drain is small, it's silted up, and it's underground. And so we have to address that. There are two of them that we have to do on either side of the Kanishi Highway. So on the one side is from Accra Academy all the way to, it was supposed to go past the interchange and connect to the Odo at MTN. We're able to arrange with the contractor doing the interchange. So he's actually, because we didn't want to then go and later break up his work. So we had an arrangement with the contractor, and he actually built to specifications the necessary channel that would lead from Pamprum Junction. So all we are doing is we'll build it from Accra Academy and tie it at Pamprum Junction, where the one that the contractor has built is already in place. And then on the other side, we're starting from the Bank of Ghana quarters, and then we are running through Abosokai. We'll cut across, again, we're cutting across the Ring Road, this time west. Again, the contractor doing the interchange is constructing it. So once he ties it, we don't have to go and break it up again. And then we are connecting it also to the Odo drain, which then turns in towards the mosque at Abosokai. Then
former ICGC area.
Exactly.
So you've spoken about the Odo, and you are now talking engineering.
Yes.
So
those are the engineering components.
Because I do know there are three components of a lot of these things: the engineering, education, enforcement.
Yeah.
So in terms of engineering, what percentage have you done when it comes to Odo re-engineering?
So we have contracts already signed, contractors already on the ground. I forgot to also mention that there are some sections of the Odo that the existing channel collapsed. The Abofun section from Achimota all the way to the N1, you see that the sections are, the concrete sections have collapsed some time ago. So we are reconstructing and changing the profile because the profile limited the amount that could be conveyed. So we're changing from the trapezoidal to the rectangular.
So there's more water.
There's more water to take up.
So a lot of engineering works.
Yeah, that's just one component.
And that you haven't even started. You just signed contracts.
No, but contractors are on the ground actually.
Are they working though?
Yes, they are working. If you go to Abofun, the contractor is there. We have the contractor already signed. The relocation is taking place at the Asalam Down.
I'm asking this because the GARED project, I think it was approved in 2019.
Yeah.
We're in 2024.
Sure.
So what percentage of the engineering works on the Odo Basin have been done?
The dredging contract is ongoing as well. So if you take all of that together, I would say that in terms of the key infrastructure works that we have to do on the basin itself, we're probably past 30%.
Because don't forget, you spoke of dredging.
Yeah.
You spoke of retention ponds.
Yeah.
And then you spoke of more like building stronger, redesign.
Yeah, redesign. The
So
configuration.
about 30%.
Yeah, about 30% is ongoing. Not completed, it's ongoing.
Isn't that a bit late? We are in May. This is 2019
there are
project.
extenuating circumstances. We could go into it, but just to say that, yes, some parts of it delayed. Partly there was a COVID shutdown right after, we started the work. Some of the funds had to be rerouted to support the COVID, which is actually something that was built into our project.
So 30%, which means that if the rains come as they have started, we will not be ready.
When you say we'll not be ready,
as in when you picture what you want to do with GARID as far as the outdoor redesign is concerned, we will not finish before the rains come. The rains are already upon us.
I mean, these are long-term contracts too. This is not 2 weeks.
When are we
6
hoping?
months.
So when are we supposed to finish?
The contract periods for some of them are 18 months to 2 years. Depends on the
So
size.
even 2026.
The scale is big scale construction. It's not small scale construction.
Can they work whilst it's raining?
There are some parts, yes, you can work, but there are some parts you cannot work. You have to wait. Some of it you can divert the flow and then do the work.
I was going to ask whether there were some temporary things that could be done.
Yes.
To allow, for example, the Korle side where a lot of the water goes through, the Odona side, sometimes there's a lot of sludge and silt.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of desilting going on in those areas?
Yeah, that's the dredging works.
Yeah.
That's the dredging works, which we have started. The covenant between government and World Bank in terms of the loan agreements requires that government pays compensation before you proceed. Unfortunately, we are all aware of the financial circumstance that we have. So we had to arrange with the bank to allow us use the proceeds of the loan, part of it to support the compensation.
Because the project cannot proceed.
Exactly.
Because government doesn't have money to pay the compensation. We are told that the project is a $200 million project.
Yes, it is.
One of the things we need to find out is if I divide the project into engineering, education, and enforcement, what percentage of the money is going to engineering?
The engineering, across all the three components, the engineering will be possibly around 75%.
Which is the most important. So a lot of this is design, infrastructure problems.
When you say most important,
in terms of the bottlenecks that will cause, because you're trying to remove the choke points for flooding.
Yeah.
So for a developing country, the infrastructure must be right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although the behavior...
But you see, the other thing that we also have to all be, we have it clear in our minds is that with flooding, you can't stop flooding. You minimize the impacts.
Yes.
Because you don't control the volume of inundation. Number two, so then you have to look at your engineering to see what can my engineering take? And then subsequently, you then look at, beyond the engineering, what adaptation measures can I put in place in the event of a flood?
All right.
So that's the story, that's what we are following. We're looking at the engineering, and then beyond the engineering, when we get to the limits of what the engineering can do. Let me cite you an example.
Yeah.
So there's a city in the US that by the nature of their...
By the way, what is this? So this is
one of the ongoing works that we are doing in the community upgrading. This Alogboshi.
So you're building new channels.
It was an earth channel and
with no concrete.
Exactly.
Protection.
So we are now lining the channel to enable us to be able to hold more water.
So this is
Alogboshi, yeah.
Because if this is not there, all the silt will come with the water. It will choke easily, and the flooding will be worse.
Exactly. Yeah.
I see. So keep showing us whilst you talk. So you're talking about...
I was just citing an example that in that city, the drainage capacities could take a 1 in 100 year flood. Over 3 successive years, they had more than the 1 in 100 year flood.
In 3 successive years?
In 3 successive years.
It means we have to even change the way we calculate this.
The engineering itself has limitations.
Yes.
It will address a lot of the challenge, but it is not the exclusive panacea to the problem.
Whoa.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll talk about education, because I want to bring in the guys who are managing the waste. Because you also said part of the reasons why the flooding happens is the filling of gutters with refuse. Absolutely. So solid waste is part of the problem beyond engineering.
Absolutely.
And solid waste has to do with the businesses in collecting the solid waste and then the behaviors of people. So this is the point of view. Tonight we're giving you 1 hour of real focus on making urban spaces more resilient. Flooding is our case study. My guest, Dr. Ohene Sarfoh. When I come back, I'll speak to Ernest Morgan Acquah, Zoomlion. They'll tell us what they've been doing. Later on, Luspa will join us. Stay with us. Welcome back. The point of view tonight wants to check on our readiness for the floods. We're discussing Accra, or really our urban areas, flood readiness. Flooding is one of the key shocks that Accra faces. My guest, Dr. Ohene Sarfoh, coordinator of the GARED project, Greater Accra Resilience Integrated Development Project. Big project, about $200 million, World Bank finance, Government of Ghana supporting. Ernest Morgan Acquah, Zoomlion, largest waste management company in Ghana. So to him, whom much is given, much is expected. Ohene,
yes,
you
sir.
spoke about engineering.
Yeah.
And then you said there's education, and then there's also enforcement. Talk to me about education and why that's part of the challenge of flooding and all of this risk we're discussing.
Yeah, so as part of the studies, we looked at these contributory factors to the state of flooding, and one of it was, two key things I want to say here. One was people building in waterways, people building in natural waterways and places where it was easy for water to pond and infiltrate. The second one was poor solid waste management. Waste that would find itself, creep into the gutters, and it was everywhere. It was everywhere. So the project then had to now be able to start doing some behavior change campaign. And we've done that targeting the communities, especially those closest to the basin, where we are taking information services around and they are doing all these behavior change communication things. We're also doing some targeted behavior change messaging and engagements. Presently, we are rolling out the school level, basic school level behavior change, because the children are champions. They enforce, they promote change at home. So we're doing that with the children as well.
We have about 3,000 tons of solid waste produced in Accra per whatever.
Yeah.
What percentage of that is properly disposed of? Do you have those numbers? That will help us.
The sanitation people tell me we are collecting in Accra.
Yes.
We are collecting something in the region of 70-80%.
So about 30% of the waste is uncollected.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So 70% of Accra's waste is collected.
Yeah.
When you collect it, what do you do with it?
So when we collect the waste, there are two: either we dispose or we treat. So when we talk about the treatment, that's when it goes to the recycling plant and we do sorting and we use the waste as a resource, using it for plastics and manure. That's the treatment.
That kind of thing.
Yes. Then disposal is when we go to the final disposal site just to put it there. And that is also one big challenge that we have in Accra. As we speak, there is no final disposal site in Accra. So when we pick the waste from Accra, we do a round trip of about 100 kilometers to go and dump it in the eastern region, Adipa, before we come back and come and collect the next set.
You dump it in a landfill site?
Yes.
So you're saying that all the refuse that finds its way into our drains and gutters is just 30% of the waste we generate? Because the 70%, are you sure you collect 70% of Accra's waste?
Yes.
As in not your company, all
yes,
of you together?
Yes.
So it's only the 30% that is finding its way in this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, that's what we are told by those who do the research, that it's 70%, although it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot.
The 30 is a lot.
What we are finding on the ground is quite a lot. So we've been doing regular cleanups with the assemblies, and in just the first quarter, we were aiming for around 250 tons per assembly for the month. We are exceeding it for every assembly.
So there's more.
And this that's waste that has entered into
in the wrong
gutters.
place than you even anticipated.
Yes, waste that people are just throwing in the gutters and all of that.
So you're talking you dispose, but we don't have a proper disposal site.
Yes.
Final, and the recycling program too doesn't seem to be working that well.
Yeah. There is a bridge with the collection. We have the influx of Aboboya now, so we would consider them as picking the waste. But most of the Aboboya people don't dispose it rightly.
Let's take our time. You have bigger trucks, so
Yes.
you go to more well-built-up areas.
Yes.
Aboboya are the tricycles that go to the smaller communities.
Sure.
And you're saying that there is no relationship between you and them. They don't bring it to you.
Most of them. Some do. We have transfer stations that some take their waste to the transfer station. But the problem that is here now is that some of them, when they pick it from their households, we are counting them as picking the waste as part of the 70%. But the 70%, they would go dispose it off
at a different place.
At the motorway. Sometimes
but
at
you
night.
Do have evidence of this? They are not
yes.
for themselves.
That's the reason why once upon a time Honorable Henry Quartey banned them from applying the motorway. Because when you apply the motorway, right now you see.
Let's take one by one. You're telling me that what percentage of the refuse collected is collected by Aboboya as against the large companies? Do you know?
So that would say about 20%. 15,
so
20%.
80% is collected by the larger companies?
Yes.
G.A.R.I.D, you guys, and all these big guys?
Yes.
So we shouldn't be talking about Aboboya now. We're talking about you guys. Because you are saying 70% of our waste is collected. And of that 70, 80 is collected by the large guys.
Yeah.
So the discussion shouldn't focus on Aboboya yet. Because they go into smaller communities that you can't go into. But even the larger communities that you are in, there are complaints that you are not coming on time. You haven't come since March. They call you, they don't hear from you. Yeah. So let's deal with your problem first. Let's talk about Aboboya. Let's deal with you guys first.
Yeah.
You said you don't have a proper disposal site.
Yeah.
And that's a national problem. But I thought you guys had a recycling facility, a cap and things.
Yes.
What percentage of the waste you collect is recycled versus disposed of in the?
So currently in Accra, I would say that about 80% of the waste that we pick, we dispose it.
So only 20
goes to the recycling plant.
Which types of material do you recycle?
We do the organics, plastics, and we've started metal, the cans.
So majority of what you get goes to waste disposal in the eastern region?
Yes.
But that's the problem, isn't it?
It is. So that is why Zoomlion as a company, we have introduced the recycling plants across the country. So now for all the 16 regions, we have recycling plants there.
But you're still only 20% of the...
It is out of that research. That's why we are increasing the numbers and we are building.
And when you recycle the inorganic, like plastics and metals, what do you do with them?
We have, we export some. Then we have one other sister company called Universal Plastics. They use the plastic, the HPD, and they turned it into the bins that we give out, some plastic chairs, buckets, and other things.
I doubt if there's a proper recycling program in Ghana, because in countries that do recycling, the waste disposal begins from the person who creates the waste. So when I come out of my room, brown, paper, blue, plastic, green, organic. You don't do that. So how do you convince me you are doing recycling in Ghana?
So we have secondary segregation that takes place at the recycling plant. At best, we should
secondary
have,
segregation?
Yes, we should have primary segregation. That should happen in the various households.
Why doesn't that happen?
We are now getting there.
You've been in this business for over 10 years.
You've
won many awards. You are the biggest company in West Africa, waste management. You need 10 years to do a recycling program. So, okay, have you piloted recycling from the producer in any community where maybe an estate, Parakou estates, they've gone to school, they have money? Have you tried to get them to recycle, to start segregation from home?
That's what I said. We are yet to get there. So since we started the secondary segregation, now we are trying the primary segregation, because, you know, the fleet that we're using, we have a number of fleets, but at a point in time, we educated people, they were doing the segregation. But what happens when somebody segregates the waste into 3 different segments, then you go in with one truck, then you lump everything together.
But that's your problem. That's your fault.
So that's why I'm saying that now that's where we are getting. So now we have designated vehicles that we are trying to do the segregation from the primary source, so that we can get value from the segregated waste that we have.
It seems to me, I don't want to make it like it's about a Zoomlion thing, but I feel you can do so much more. Do you get? Because you're the largest company.
Yes.
80% of our waste is not recycled. Our final disposal site is not even fit for purpose. And even the 20% that you say you recycle, you don't even recycle it from source. You have to do secondary sorting, which then means that there's a lot of things get lost in transition. So I feel you're failing us on a fundamental level, where the quest to recycle and properly dispose of our waste doesn't really happen.
So for us, Zoomlion, we started these initiatives in segregation. Fine. we have issues. You read some of the challenges that people were bringing. Even though Zoomlion is the biggest waste management company in Ghana, we are not the only waste management company. So there are so many of the areas that has been franchised to some other contractors. Some were our franchise areas, but at a point in time, it got to some other people. If they are not performing, they still mention Zoomlion.
But you are the largest, so that means that you can help create standards. There's ESPA.
Yeah.
So whether it's Zoomlion, G.A.R.I.D, or whoever, don't you think that as an industry, you should be leading in compliance, in efficiency? A lot of the comments we were getting earlier were talking about waste not collected since March. We are in May. Calls not being answered. You get me?
I was coming there.
Yeah.
Most people that complain that over 3 months, 5 months, waste has, most people have been blacklisted and they are aware. We should understand that the waste collection that we are doing is a private business. And for the polluter pay system, individuals have to pay for their waste. In Ghana now, people think that because there is a segment of waste that is paid by government, their individual waste should be paid by government.
But we are talking about built-up communities where people have access to you by phone and digital. I'm not talking about communities that are not paying generally.
I asked, which numbers did they call and they didn't get to us?
Seriously?
Most of our clients, we send them text messages.
Can you indulge me to read some comments? Zoomlion keep sending us bills but never pick the baller every day. Excuses. I have tried several times to reach them, but they haven't picked my calls. Harriet Inodumase. I live at Ahunju near Sawam, and Zoomlion is a real disappointment. They keep sending bills, but when you inform them about the refuse not being picked, they raise their voice and defend their collectors. Or that day, Nana Okufu Amwa. Hello, Bernard. Zoomlion has not picked our refuse for over a year. Bulasu Afienya Road. Eric. Nick Bako from Latibia Okoshi. Bernard, the Zoomlion workers do not come to collect the rubbish, and yet they keep increasing their price. So in my home, we stopped them from coming and resorted to the Aboboya Bola boys. They said if we won't work with them, we shouldn't be using their containers. So for a long time, the whole area, nobody's working with Zoomlion. More comment to Bernard. Zoomlion is now cash and carry, 20 cedis per container. With that, they come around every 4 weeks, right? There's so many. So these are clear customer service challenges you're facing, and you are the largest and most resourced.
So yes, I understand the comment, but the issue that I mentioned, we should understand that it is a private company, and the individuals should also do their part. We resorted to pay as you dump. Somebody mentioned that we are charging in some areas. When we talk of part of Ashaman, part Sahara in Ablekuma West, Oyarifa, and some other areas, we've now resorted to pay as you dump, because we service them on regular basis. At the end of the month, they are not paying. And we need, in Accra, we have about 83 service providers. How many do you see? Most of them, they come into the waste management system and they have to die out because the machinery that they put in, they don't get the money back to continue doing the work. And people are not paying for the services that we are rendering to them.
Do you have any special plans ahead of the rains for dredging? Because your company also has dredge masters and those types of people. Yes. As a group, do you have any special things you're doing as the rains come in terms of dredging, desilting?
So for dredging, for the Odo River, they've started, I think about a month or two ago, they started the dredging. And I think they are still on.
Is this under the GARED project?
Yes.
So some of your companies are involved in that?
Yes. The dredge, we call them dredge masters. It's
wonderful.
A subsidiary under the Jospon group of companies.
I'll come back to you. I wanted to bring in Kofi, but I need to take a short break. We're still on resilience and flood readiness, trying to get a sense of the GARED project. Dr. Ohene Sarfoh is here, and we also have Mr. Morgan from Zoomlion. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Point of View tonight is looking at Accra's resilience. We're looking at whether flooding will take us. Big project, the GARED project, World Bank, Government of Ghana. The coordinator is here explaining the project, showing us the river basin. I sure you have other maps you want to show. Sure. Probably do that before the show ends. Ernest Morgan Acquah, he is the communications PR manager for Zoomlion. talking about the recycling, waste disposal. It says all the waste in Accra, we have to drive 100 kilometers to the eastern region. We need a proper waste disposal system. We don't have enough time to discuss this. Joining us now is Kofi Amedzro. He is an urban planner with the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority. Kofi, thanks for joining us. What do you guys do at LUSPA, by the way?
Oh, so LUSPA is the authority that's supposed to manage human settlements in Ghana.
Okay.
So that we have judicious use of land, very sustainable use of lands and all that. So basically what we do is we plan and help with the management of human settlements. So if you talk of planning, currently there's a 3-tier system of planning. At the regional level, you have what we call Regional Spatial Development Framework, which is supposed to be a long-term plan that does some sectoral analysis of all sectors of which waste is part. So this gives you a long-term vision of what you really want the region to be like. Below that, you have what you call a structure plan. And the structure plan shows the major land uses, the communication networks, that are the transportation routes, if you have railway routes and what have you. And again, if you are thinking of waste management, you have what we call special utility areas, where you have waste being taken there if you want to do segregation and what have you. And then at the local level, you have your individual plots, your road network, schools, hospitals, and what have you. So basically, we plan everything together.
So regional?
Regional, district, local.
So you have people at the local level?
Yeah.
So if I'm building a house in Adenta, do I need a permit from LUSPA?
No. So technically, if you have to build a house in Adenta, you have to go to the district assembly. And there is a physical planning department. That is the secretariat of the Spatial Planning Committee that issues permits to individuals. And within this Spatial Planning Committee, you have the engineers, planners, environmental experts, and what have you. So they vet the documentations you bring and what have you to ensure that it falls within the local plan that has been prepared before the permit is issued.
So as an authority, what power do you have?
So in terms of power, we are actually supposed to regulate the district assemblies and then the regional RCCs.
Regional Coordinating Council. You regulate the district assemblies and regional coordinating council?
Yes. But the challenge is that LUSPA itself, in terms of financing the authority to be able to undertake its work, it's a challenge. Historically, if you look at the resources that are dedicated to the authority, it's very limited. If you look at the preparation of spatial plans that are supposed to guide the management of settlements, it's very limited because when you look at even the, the regional spatial development frameworks, out of the 16 regions, currently I think it's only 2 that have it. If you are talking about financing, resources to move around, to even monitor the district assemblies, it becomes a challenge to some extent. So, though we
have... you are an authority without resources. So you are authority in name.
So that is a challenge.
So are you able, so for example, Ramsar site, people are building Ramsar site. Regional minister goes and says they should leave.
Yeah.
So LUSPA just looks on?
We don't look on. So even before Ramsar site, people discuss it and all that. Even before someone goes to build, the law says that if anyone builds without a permit, it should be demolished, and then the individual who or the developer should be made to pay for such a development. So it's a district assembly level activity that should be done. The district assembly's responsibility is to ensure that such developments do not happen at all. Wow. You get it? So one thing that I think in terms of practice is lacking is the public awareness of these local plans. If you talk of the Ramsar sites, for instance, if we do have local plans that are, let's say, put on notice boards within the communities where the citizens are aware that these are green areas, these are Ramsar sites that are supposed to be protected, then what I call citizen policing come in, where the citizens will ensure that no developments come up there. But again, at the district assembly level too, when you go there, the physical planning department, the works department also have challenges with regards to the rapidity at which developments are coming on in the city.
So there's an enforcement challenge.
Yes.
There's a private sector issue. But Dr. Ohene Sarfoh, I'm coming back to public awareness creation.
Sure.
Why don't we have monthly cleanups anymore?
For that, I would leave it to the ministry because they actually, it was a policy that they were implementing, and at some point they decided.
Which ministry? Local government?
No, well, I
or
mean,
sanitation?
When sanitation used to be under local government, at some point they were doing it, then at another point they were not doing it. But at the same time, under the GARED project, recognizing the interconnection between solid waste, poor solid waste, and flooding, we are working with assemblies and have been conducting periodic cleanups. So in this first quarter, all assemblies have, most of the assemblies we are working have done 4 cleanup exercises with support from the project. Like I think I mentioned that we bought equipment for the assemblies as well.
You bought equipment for the assemblies?
Yeah, compactor trucks and other equipment to support them. Because you see, the policy, the environmental health and sanitation policy requires that the assemblies must have the capacity to lift about 20% of the waste. This was
as assemblies?
As assemblies.
Not Zoomlion and Co.
Private sector.
You see,
20%.
So the collection is given to the private sector, but recognizing that the private sector is not performing all the time, the assemblies must be able to come in where there's an emergency to be able to lift and not say we are going to stick to the contract when the person is not performing.
And that one, they do it for free?
Well, no. I mean, the assembly
find a way of charging.
will find a way of charging, but they are supposed to have that capacity to do that. So part of the equipment that we bought was supposed to support them to do that. So the assemblies are deploying these equipment in these cleanups that we've been doing. Like I said, this year, the 4 cleanups that we've done so far, they've even exceeded what our researchers are telling us is the volume of waste that's being generated. We're exceeding it by far. So that's one of the things that we're doing. The other thing that we also do, the public sensitization part, is going community to community. We're also identifying key vocational groups and other stakeholders and then engaging them with our behavior change messaging. And then especially where we are doing multiple interventions in those, because some of it is also going to disrupt their lives. So you need to engage them, inform them ahead of time, do a lot of deep sensitization. And that's what we've been conducting over the period as well.
The project is for me in the media, 200 million seems like a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't hear anything. I don't hear anything.
Which is a pity because, I mean, we've done quite a bit.
Are you doing it in the local communities or through mediums?
We are doing both.
Really?
We are doing both. I mean, Bernard, maybe it escaped you, but you recall that we're doing a program on GTV. And
This once a week?
Yeah, that's a once a week. And we've been doing it since September last year.
Okay.
Raising the issues so that people will know the causes and the solutions. We are not just talking problems, we're also talking solutions. So that's one of the things we're doing. We've gone to churches.
Really?
Oh,
so
yeah,
you do physical engagements?
We do a lot of
behavioral change campaigns?
We do a lot of that. Like I'm saying, we are now even escalating into the schools.
Wow.
We are escalating across the...
and these are, what are they called? What name do you have for it?
Well, we have to... So presently, we are proposing, we called it Sanitation and Climate Resilient Education Clubs, which would be sacred. The acronym will be sacred.
Sanitation and Climate Resilient
Sacred Clubs.
Wow.
Which speaks to how we need to look at sanitation and climate resilience. But we have to work with SHEP. They are in charge of the school sanitation within the Ministry of Education. So we are in conversations with them already. And so I'm not saying this is the actual name that has been decided upon, but that's what we are proposing. That would help to galvanize the children around these topical issues of solid waste collection.
I think the Minister for Works and Housing said to me that he wasn't happy with the pace of work under the GA.R.I.D project, and he wanted it quickened.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Sure. We've had meetings with him. Like I'm saying, there were extenuating circumstances. And we could go into all of that. I mean, one part of it was part of the fund, $65 million had to be used for the COVID. It's yet to be refunded. We had consultants who were...
So some of the money for the project had to be used to solve COVID?
Yeah. So now it's going to be reimbursed, but we are presently...
By GOG?
No, through government's arrangement with the World Bank. It's a facility, it's called the Contingent Emergency Response Component that the World Bank instituted in its project because it realized that there are projects that are going on and then an emergency happens and the government says all these funds are tied up so I cannot use it. And the government itself doesn't have resources to address the emergency. So that is a mechanism that the World Bank agrees with all governments and GA.R.I.D was the first to... So after we signed off and then COVID happened, and government had to scramble looking for money
So you're looking for, you need money to
so that has to be reimbursed, the project, for us to allow us to continue.
So we will not be ready before the floods come. The floods are here already. I just want to ask you, sorry to cut you, I want to ask you about the landfill issue. So the whole of Greater Accra, we don't have a proper waste disposal center. It's in the eastern region.
Yep.
What state is it in? Do we need more? What are the plans?
So for the Adepa final disposal site, that's an engineered landfill site. It's in a very good state.
Yeah.
And the only issue we have is the distance that we have to travel to.
And the road is also not that good.
The road, yes, the Pokwase road, it's not that good. But for that reason, Zoomlion as a private company, we are building transfer stations. As we speak, we have one at Ashaman, we have one at Abokobi, we have one at Malam, and we want to build more. The transfer stations, they are just there so that when we pick up the waste, we take it there, deep in the night, then we take it to the final disposal.
Without traffic.
Without traffic.
So you do that to make it easier to dispose?
Yes. So we are looking at even getting land so that at least every MMD, every municipal assembly will get one transfer station there, so that we would be a little bit fast in servicing the client than we are doing now.
But there are lots of communities, particularly flood-prone areas, where you don't reach because your truck can't even get there, and the people don't have money to pay necessarily. So you have to work with the Aboboya. Why aren't you working with them?
We are working with.
Really?
Yes.
Do they give you? Why don't they send their waste to your transfer sites?
Some they do. Just that when they come, they have to pay something small to dispose their waste. So
who
when
sets
you go,
that price?
The price for every MMDA, it is the assembly that gives for waste management. It's the assembly that sets fees.
I'm talking about from them to you. So the assembly sets the fees for the household. So Aboboya comes to my house, I pay him 5 cedis. When Aboboya comes to you, how much does he pay to tip?
So they pay, I think, between 80 to 100 cedis.
Is that sustainable? How much do they get for that small Aboboya that they can pay 80?
Oh, that's peanuts for them.
You think so?
Yes.
So if that system were working, then the little waste in the communities that ends up in the drains will be collected by those guys. They don't need to cross the motorway. They will come to you, and then you will send it to your Malam or Ashaiman or.
So these transfer stations
Abokobi
are just about a year old, and we want to build more. It's because of the challenge you are mentioning. That's why we started these transfer stations.
But you're competing with the small guys. That's the problem, right? Because you are the big guys. So why are you competing with the small boys too?
You see, we have the franchise area, but as you mentioned, there are some places that we don't even reach because the access road is not too good. And that's where the Aboboya, some Aboboya people, they used to have an organized body, but some people just buy the Aboboya and they are working.
Enforcement issues are there.
Yes. So,
assemblies issues.
Yeah. And Zoomlion as a company, we also have Aboboya that we use.
Ohene,
we brought the Aboboya into the system.
Sorry, there's no time. I just wanted your quick thought around landfill, waste recycle. What trick are we missing as a country?
If you look at it from a systems perspective,
yeah,
you would see that their connections are poor. So it's weakest at the joints where it has to
transfer from one to the other.
Yeah. So I mean, the GARED project is also going to construct a landfill because of the distance. So we are doing one at Ga South, where the bid documents are present with the bank. We are just waiting for approval to proceed. We're also doing the same waste transfer stations. Where the gap is the connection between those small Aboboyas, as we call them, and then the big trucks. Now, because it is assembly that sets the fees, and the fees don't cover their operational costs, there's a certain reluctance from the formal sector providers as to where they pick. So there are places even in East Legon which is given out to these formal, and they don't collect everywhere.
They can't even collect money in East Legon.
Well, because the fee is set.
But
the fee is set by the assembly.
So that means that East Legon should be paying more than Abofu?
For equity purposes, that's what should happen. For equity
although
purposes.
It's more easier to collect East Legon than it is to collect Abofu.
Yes.
So the rich pay more.
As you said, to whom much is given, much is required. If you want a proper society, that's what you are looking
So to remove that bottleneck, we must allow the companies to set the price and let Parliament approve, instead of letting the Assembly set the price. Is that what we should do?
Well, I'm not looking at taking it to Parliament. I mean, but there has to be a forum at the Assembly level, or you could even take it at the regional level, where we look at operational costs vis-a-vis willingness to and ability to pay.
You agree?
That has not been solved, has not been sorted out. That is one of the critical things that, because if you only look at the ability to pay and you overlook the operational cost, that's how come you have so many who are entering the formal.
So the business is not viable. So the private sector is not able to really support.
Well, in other countries, then they have a subsidy element that should cover the poor. Sure. Then you can actually charge the market rates for the rich to pay.
Can the GARID tackle this?
No. I mean, if you look at our design, one of the things that we are doing is that we're trying to help, particularly for the low-income people, the Aboboya people. First is to try to put them in a way that you can regulate them.
Wonderful.
So they are forming cooperatives. We have so far we've created 4 cooperatives across 4 assemblies: Adenta, Ganyis, and
so now we know who they are.
So you know who they are. Then you can then assign them specific areas.
Wonderful.
Because we're also building a waste transfer station, we can tell, okay, within the zone, bring it to this restaurant. It shortens the haulage distance. Sure. So there's the incentive to do multiple cycles of collection in a day. Then they can earn more. Once they can earn more,
they can be more efficient.
They can be
Final
more efficient.
comment because of time. Does LUSPA have any ideas around waste management?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, in designing the local plans, we take considerations of distance issues and all these calculations. And then based again on population, we have standards based on which these transfer stations, dump sites and what have you, should be done. So technically, all those things have been catered for from planning perspective and zoning.
They just need to
guidelines.
implement the plan.
Yes, it's just the implementation which is a challenge. Because for every population, there is how do you call it, a sanitary site that is planned for that particular community. So it's based on the planning standards and all the zoning guidelines. All these things are covered.
Wonderful.
From dumping sites in local communities to transfer sites, and then the larger landfill, properly engineered landfill sites. All those things are catered for.
So my key takeaway is engineering. GARID is doing the engineering, 30% almost. Education, join a secret club, at least so your child understands their role. And of course, enforcement. Let's all pay. Let's pay for the refuse to be collected and let's work together. Of course, the rains are coming and there's still a lot we can do. Announce the cleanup so we can join. You are making it look like a national secret. We don't know anything about the cleanups. Let's join the cleanups. Let's do the best we can so we don't get overrun by the floods. Climate vulnerability is a big risk. My guest in the studio, Mr. Ernest Morgan Acquah. Thank you for being here. Zoomlion manager for PR. By the way, all those who called, we've sent the numbers to you so you can deal with them.
Sure.
Thank you for that point. Kofi Amedzro is an urban planner with the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority, LUSPA for short. And Dr. Ohene Sarfoh, coordinator of the Greater Accra Resilience and Integrated Development GARID project. Thank you for watching the show. Let's keep our environment clean. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.